In the Christian church, today is Palm Sunday, and it is the longest and hardest service because you go from joy to death.
Oh, too bad it wasn't the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, that's next Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah.
it has to stretch out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Next
exactly.
Sunday is simply he's back.
Well, and in the old days, there used to be two Sundays. There used to be um, Palm Sunday with all the celebration, and the next week was Passion Sunday. And people figured out that in modern times, when people are selective about when they go to church, if they didn't put them together, people didn't read the crucifixion at all. They went from Palm Sunday to Easter, which is
Ah,
So, so is Easter the crucifixion or
no,
no, it's the
he
rising.
is
it's the
risen.
rising,
The
the rising.
rising.
So that
And
all that was within 1 week.
uh,
The happiness,
the
the
yeah
crucifixion, the
yeah
rising.
he marched into Jerusalem and got caught by the local officials and got condemned to die. And in theory, he died on the Friday, but and the Last Supper presumably was on Thursday, and so the crucifixion was on Friday. And there are people who grew up in Brookline who remember not going out on Good Friday, and
Oh,
Jews who didn't go out on Good Friday in Brookline because it wasn't safe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jenny grew up never going to the village because it wasn't safe.
Never going to the village?
Never going to Brookline Village.
I wonder if that's going to reappear.
Well, one hopes not. In any
oh,
case,
It won't reappear from the Catholics, I don't think.
no.
Certainly not from us.
Yep. So here we go. And we get a little Passover learning while we're reading this, but just framing ourselves once more. We finished in chapter 5 and the first verse of chapter 6, the whole process of chapter 4, Moses being called by God, given the instruction, 4 and 5, gathering all of the elders together, giving them the message. They're all going, woohoo! Then going to Pharaoh, and then them getting, wait a minute, what were we so excited about? Now we don't even get straw. Now we have harder work, all of that stuff. And Moses goes back to God and says, what did you send me for? To cause more problems? And by reading chapter 4, 5, and 6 in order that way, it seems like this is a second conversation Moses has with God. However, if we skip from chapter 3 blue to chapter 6 blue, as we probably did or possibly did in the original two different stories, two different narratives, this is the first call. Moses is still back at the bush. And God says to Moses now, Vadaber Elohim el Moshe, Vayomer Elav Ani Adonai, which makes a lot more sense actually in the original two different stories than after having this whole long encounter, going off on the mission, coming back to God, and God says, by the way, here's my name. But when we read it together, we sort of lose that uh, inconsistency, that discrepancy in the story. But in any case, here we are. Vadaber Elohim, and so God spoke El Moshe to Moshe, Vayomer saying, and he said, Elav to him, I am Yud He Vav He. However, that was intended to be pronounced. We, of course, read it now as Adonai. Va'era el Avraham el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov be'el Shaddai ushmi Yud He Vav He lo nodati lahem. Va'era is and I appeared. Ro'eh is the root. Era is I was seen, and the va'era, rather, era is I will be seen, and va'era is that switching thing. So I was seen, I was perceived, or I appeared, El Avraham to Avraham, El Yitzchak to Yitzchak, ve'el Yaakov, and to Jacob, to Yaakov. So I appeared to all of them, Be'el Shaddai. And the Be'el Shaddai would be, in the context of this passage, a name. So here's my name, but they knew me by the name El Shaddai. Rather than trying to translate El Shaddai, we should read it as a name.
How would you translate it?
El is God, and Shaddai is either the powerful one, or the God of the breasts, or the God of the or God on high. Shaddai, that particular Shin Daled Yud, is the name of God that's used on the mezuzah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the tradition says that it's an acronym for Shomer Delatot Yisrael, the guardian of the doorposts of Israel. But El Shaddai, from a historical Near Eastern studies, would have been a Canaanite god.
Is it, does it have any meaning that the word that "b" is used in?
B is just, this is how, Va'era B, I appeared to them in the name of El Shaddai,
Not with.
or with the name of, with El.
Oh,
Yeah, I
with.
mean, you don't want to read it that I showed up along with this Canaanite god.
Mhm.
In the context of this, here's my name, but they knew me by this name, would be I appeared as El Shaddai, or in the guise of El Shaddai. So they were Canaanite Bedouins, so they knew me in the Canaanite God form. Might be a way of looking at it. Whether or not that was the intention of the biblical author in this story, there's no way of knowing. But the the key passage is, you, Moses, you are the first one to get to know me by my real name, even though Yud He Vav He shows up all the time in Genesis.
Yep.
So that
And
is to establish him as special, right?
right. And then to bolster that context, Ushmi Yud He Vav He, and my name Yud He Vav He, Lo Nodati Lahem, uh, was not known to them. And Nodati is the passive of Yodea, to know. So I was not known to them. Lo Nodati Lahem. I was not known to them by the name Yud He Vav He. I was known by the name El Shaddai. And of course, the El Shaddai part we get a couple of times in Genesis, but is not consistently how Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are actually calling on whatever their vision of the deity is. Verse 4. And so this is now to Moses a reintroduction in the way the text is formed, but an initial introduction to Moses after, in this particular story. This bush is calling out to Moses, giving Moses a challenge, and the bush is identifying the credentials. Hey, Moses, here's my CV about why you should be paying attention to me and following me. V'gam hakimoti et briti itam latet lahem et eretz Canaan et eretz migurehem asher garu va. So 4, v'gam hakimoti et briti itam. And also hakimoti is the I cut, literally, or I established, from the root kam, to get up. So I established, I set up, briti, my covenant, with them, itam. And I also established a covenant, my covenant with them. And here's what my covenant was. Latet lahem et eretz Canaan. Latet, the infinitive of to give, notain, to give to them the land of Canaan. So this is the I promised them they would have the land of Canaan, which is the et eretz megorehem, the land of their sojournings. And this gara business is they were not native Canaanites, they were immigrants. But God said, I'm going to give the land to the immigrants, just like God said to the Western Europeans in the 17th century.
Of course.
I'm going to give this land to you and take it away from the native population.
But then you're allowed to forget that history, that you were an immigrant.
Well, you're not allowed to teach it. You don't want to feel guilty for being a conqueror and a colonizer. So God says, I will give, this was my promise to them, this was my covenant, the land of their sojournings. And in case you don't know, Asher Garuva, that they sojourned in it.
What is that?
So the Garu is again sojourning. The land of their sojournings, that they sojourned in it, is what the Hebrew actually says. So we don't know where they came from. I mean, Avram theoretically came from the Fertile Crescent by way of Padan Aram, leaving some of the family back in Padan Aram, up in the Levant or up in Syria or wherever they are. And they are the Arameans. And then these are the Avrahami, Yitzchaki, Yaakovians. These are the Jacobians, who are the Israel. And at one point, and in a couple of times here in Exodus, they're called the Ivrim, the ones who came across from the other side. So this is not their native land. This is their adopted land that God has given to them. And then, V'gam ani shamati et na'akat b'nei Yisrael, asher Mitzrayim ma'avidim otam, ve'ezkor et briti. And also, this is sort of a now. So this is who I was, and this is who I am now. Ani shamati et na'akat b'nei Yisrael. Shamati, I have heard, I have listened. The na'akat b'nei Yisrael, the crying out, the moaning of the children of Israel. They're groaning and moaning and whimpering and crying out their suffering. Why are they doing that? Asher Mitzrayim ma'avidim otam, that Egypt has enservanted them. So ma'avidim caused them to be servants, translated usually in modern texts as slaves. But again, there is no Hebrew word for slave that is different from the Hebrew word for servant, but rather there's context of different kinds of services or servants or servitudes. So the Egyptians have put them into service, caused them to work. Ve'ezkor et briti, and I have remembered my covenant. Remembered, taken note of, called to mind. Is this God forgot and then remembered? Or God heard and said, I've always known about my covenant that I would give them the land, but now it's more pressing now that they're na'akad, now that they are moaning and groaning under the work. So it's time to renew my covenant or to fill my covenant, whatever it is. Verse 6.
Can I ask the word it's core.
Ezkor, Zachar, remember.
Shouldn't it end with an I sound? Like I have
Ezkor,
what makes it I have
the I aleph at the beginning makes the verb zacher, ezkor, I will remember, and then the va is that switching around of tenses and perfect and imperfect voices. So va ezkor literally, and I remembered, but and it was that I will remember would be a possible English translation to try to capture that particular verb form in Hebrew. So I am involved in remembering.
Mhm.
And the makes it I. Edaber, I will speak. Echol, I will eat. Ezkor, I will remember. Yizkor, he will remember. So we have, in the future tense, we have mostly prefix for the form. 6. Lachain amor livnei Yisrael ani yud-he vav-he v'hotzeti etchem mitachat sivlot Mitzrayim v'hitzalti etchem me'avodatam v'ga'alti etchem bizroa netuya ufishtafatim gedolim. 7. V'lakachti etchem li la'am v'hayiti lachem le'elohim v'datem ki ani yud-he vav-he Elohechem hamotzi etchem mitachat sivlot Mitzrayim. 8. V'heveti etchem el haaretz asher nasati et yadi latet ota la'avraham li'yitzchak li'Yaakov v'natati ota Lachem morasha ani Adonai. The reason I had to read that all together from 6 through 8 is we have here the rationale for drinking 4 cups of wine on Passover, and the reason why there is a 5th cup debated but not resolved in rabbinic times into even today. So we're going to look at it not only for the translation, but how do we get 4, maybe 5 cups out of this? So lachain, 6, back at 6. Lachain, therefore, amor livnei Yisrael, speak. And here amor, the aleph is part of the verb, amar, and the form is the imperative. Say, livnei Yisrael, say to the children of Israel, Ani Yud-he Vav-he, I am Yud-he Vav-he, which again makes more sense when we read it separately from 4 and 5, which already had Moses and Aaron going and talking to Israel and telling them about the message. And now God says, go do it again. If we read it all together in one flowing text, and thus the need for midrash and commentary on why we get this all over again. Whereas if we take it apart into the red and the blue stories, we realize we're not getting it all over again, we're getting the other story. So therefore say to them, I am Yud-he Vav-he. V'hotzeti etchem mitachat sivlot Mitzrayim. So v'hotzeti is I will do this. And skipping past the etchem mitachat sivlot Mitzrayim, then we get the next vav. And v'hitzalti etchem, and I will do this. Then v'ga'alti etchem, and the next vav, and I will do this. That's 3. 3 I will do's. And then 7, v'lakachti etchem, 4, and I will do this. And then verse 8, v'heveti etchem, and I will do this. So there are 5 and I will do's. And they're all promises at this point that God is making to Moses to tell the people that God has promised these 5 things. Now let's look and see what are the 5 things that God has promised to do. And notice each one starts with a vav, and each one is the only vav within the statement of God's promise. Each vav is in front of a verb that is written in such a way that we read it as a future first person singular.
But the vav is in front of the I will do.
The vav is v'hotzeti,
Yeah.
v'hitzalti,
Out.
v'ga'alti,
Oh,
v'lakachti,
Yeah.
and v'heveti.
oh, I see.
Those are the only. There is a v'hayiti, but that might be a fifth one, or it's usually taken as the 4a.
What about
V'lakachti is 4a, and v'hayiti is 4b.
how about vidaltem?
Vidatem is 4c. That is, verse 7 is one promise. One promise in
Oh.
three parts.
Yeah.
So we'll look at that when we get to verse 7. So promise 1, back in the middle of verse 6. V'hotzeti etchem mitachet sivlot Mitzrayim. I will, hotzeti, cause to go out. I will bring out, bring forth, etchem, you all, plural, mitachat, from under, sivlot Mitzrayim, the burden of Egypt. So I'm going to bring you out from the, I'm going to remove you from, I'm going to bring you forth from the burden of Egypt. Okay, good promise. V'hitzalti etchem me'avodatam, and I will save you from your work, from all. So I will bring you out from the burden, and I will remove you from the work. I will save you from the work.
That's the about yeah.
Yeah, avodatam. Their work on you. They're making you work. V'ga'alti etchem, and I will redeem you. Bizroa nituya, with an outstretched arm or shank bone,
Yeah.
depending on whether God is a human anthropomorphized or a sheep god. Because the zaroa is also the shank bone, the arm bone of the lamb. So nituya is stretched out. So a stretched out arm. Fishfatim gedolim, and with big judgments. So I'm going to take you out, I'm going to save you, and I'm going to redeem you, and I'm going to do the redeeming with an outstretched arm and with big judgments.
Which is arm?
Zroa. Zroa is the arm bone. On a lamb, we call it a shank bone. But it's the lamb arm. And the human, it's a human arm. Verse 7. Promise number 4. V'lakachti etchem li, and I will take you to me. You all, plural, li, to me. La'am, for a people. V'hayiti lachem le'elohim, and I will be for you a God. So this is really just one thing. I'm going to take you. You'll be my people. I will be your God. Vidatem ki ani Adonai Elohechem. Then you will know that I am Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, your God, your plural God. So this is the, I will take you as a people. You'll know me. I'll know you. We'll know each other. And that's what it's all about. And I am not only your God, I am your God. Hamotzi etchem mitachet sivlot Mitzrayim. I am the one who got you out of this whole problem. Forget about the fact that I'm the one who got you into this whole problem in the first place. But maybe I didn't. I got you down there to save you. You chose not to leave for all this time, however much time this is. Even when a new Pharaoh arose who didn't remember how you got there in the first place, you never left. You allowed them to put you into service. Depending on how we want to read the passage. and we would like to blame for all of this stuff.
Vidatem. What is vidatem?
Vidatem, and you will know. Yada, know. Vidatem, and you will know. So I'm taking you. I'm taking you so that I will be your God, you will be my people, you will know that I'm the one who brought you out of the land of your burdens in Egypt. 4 promises, and in fact, when you go to Passover and you drink the 4 cups, the first cup is the cup of bringing out. The second cup is the cup of saving. The third cup is the cup of redemption, and the fourth cup is the cup of relationship. And so the first 2 cups are done before the meal in that telling, and then the other 2 cups, the cup of we are you and you are we are saved, is the cup of the salvation cup, which is the done at the Birkat Hamotzi, the Birkat the Hamazon, the blessings of grace after the meal. And then the 4th cup is done at the end, that we are now going to know that we are God's people. 4 cups. And in fact, throughout the rest of the Torah, those 4 cups happen. Those 4 promises happen. We are, in fact, brought out from the slavery, servitude. We are, in fact, saved. We are, in fact, redeemed. And we are finally at Sinai, truly knowing that God has taken us and we are in a relationship with God. So what about verse 8? And so the tradition was, we do the 4 cups of wine for the 4 promises that God did through the Exodus experience. But after that has become the tradition, somewhere along the line, a rabbi said, wait a minute, verse 8 is another promise. Veheveti, I will cause you to come. Veheveti etchem, I will cause you to come, or I will bring you el haaretz, to the land, asher nasati et yadi, that I have settled my hand upon, latet ota, to give to you, to give it, that I in fact raised it up as a land that I had promised to give it, la'Avraham liYitzchak u'Yaakov, to Avraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, v'natati ota lachem, and now I am giving it to you. So I gave it to them, and now I'm going to bring you back there. I'm going to bring you in there, and I'm going to give it to you. Mo Rasha ani Adonai, as an inheritance. I am Adonai. I am Yud-Heh Vav-Heh. So let's spend a moment on this whole Passover business that shows up here. Other parts of the Haggadah show up elsewhere in the Torah after the Exodus, when Moses says, now we're going to keep this every year, and your children will ask you, and you will ask, and here's the story, and here's how we came. But here are the basis of the 4 cups of wine. 1 cup for each promise. A promise, I will take you out, I will save you, I will redeem you, and I will take you to me, and me to you, and you to me. 4 cups, 4 promises. But then the rabbi later came and asked, what about, and I will bring you into the land that I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that I will give to them, and now I'm giving it to you. Why don't we drink a cup of wine for that? And so it was debated, because the first 4 promises were fulfilled in Torah. The final promise was not fulfilled until the book of Joshua. after the death of Moses.
Hmm.
Even though we do not mention Moses at all in the traditional Haggadah, we mention Moses by implication, by remembering the promises that God told Moses to tell Israel, that God then fulfilled through Moses through the Exodus. So this is all God, Moses, and Israel, but never said Moses. So do we drink the 4 cups for the 4 promises that were fulfilled in the Torah? Or do we drink a 5th cup for the promise that was fulfilled after the Torah, but in our time? However, by the time the rabbi raises this question, there is no longer a state of Israel, because this is the Middle Ages, when the temple has been destroyed and the kingdom of Israel is gone, not to be reestablished again in the lifetime of the people who are debating this question. So these were 4 promises fulfilled, and 1 promise unfulfilled, fulfilled, and once again unfulfilled. However, we're not back in Egypt working for the king of Egypt, so therefore those promises were fulfilled and remain fulfilled. So should we drink 4 cups of wine for the fully fulfilled promises, or should we drink a cup of wine trusting in God for the partially fulfilled promise?
Hmm.
And the debate went on, and without resolution. And the rabbis apparently were satisfied with a debate without resolution. This is not the only case. In fact, it was common enough that there was a resolution to the unresolved questions called teku, which means let's wait till Elijah comes and gives us the answer to the questions that we couldn't figure out for ourselves. And so on Passover, it became an established custom within the Seder to have a 5th cup of wine called the cup of Elijah,
Yeah.
which was not a cup for Elijah to drink and get drunk on after visiting some millions of homes in one night, but rather was the cup for Elijah to resolve the question, should we have a 4th cup or a 5th cup? And it was done in such a way that whichever answer we got, we could say, we did it. Because if Elijah comes and says, you're supposed to be having 5 cups of wine, you'll say, we did, 4 individual and 1 communal cup. And if Elijah says you were only supposed to have 4 cups of wine, you'll say, we did, 4 individual cups and 1 cup aside, waiting to find out whether we're supposed to drink it or not. So we cover our bases from this particular section of this retelling or telling
Yeah.
from a different vantage point of God's initial encounter with Moses, preparing the way for the Exodus, which will be coming up soon
Yep.
after Passover.
Not soon enough, right?
Because next week, actually 2 weeks from now, this is what you're going to be spending 2 weeks practicing reading. The rest of the Moses encounter with God, which again, you'll notice here, is Moses protesting, why are you sending me? And in this story, it does not say, why are you sending me back?
Oh.
Which is what it should have said if it was one continuous story. But if we, as we take it as one separate story, Moses says, why are you sending me? They're not going to listen to me anyway. Nobody's listening to me. And verse 9 is, Moses apparently went and said it and they didn't listen. And God says, don't worry. I'm going to get it taken care of. And it's going to end with the end of this first part of the blue. Moses's protestation is, I am aral sfatayim. I am uncircumcised of lips.
Wow.
By the way, this is the only place in the blue story is the only place it comes up as aral sfatayim. In the red story, he is kabed peh, heavy of mouth and tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So did that mean a lisp or a stutter?
Or a hanging bit of lip over his mouth. He's got an extra piece of skin on his lip that hasn't been taken off, which is what is the uncircumcised part.
Mhm.
Wow.
So he's got a lip foreskin. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak well because I got this flapping thing in my mouth, on my lips. But the language of Moses's speech problem are different in the two different stories.
Yeah.
So you'll be reading that. Then we get a little bit of a editorial insertion to try to make sure that you knew that this was really part of the continuing story of the red story from 4 and 5. And we'll find out in 2 weeks whether the editor was fully successful in doing that. The reason that there's a pei and a samach there is the pei in Hebrew in the Chumash tells us that in the Torah text there's an open space.
Oh.
And the samach tells us that there's an open space. The difference is one is an open space at the end of the line, the other one is an open space in the middle of the line. But this one verse in the middle of this huge column of Moses, Pharaoh, pre-Exodus story, this one verse is separated out in the Torah scroll as one little bit. And was that done because the editor redactor stuck it in that way? But it's notable that that particular verse is completely separate from everything else in the story. And then after that, which is really in the original story probably a jump from 12 to 14, you get from Moses protesting to a typical blue story genealogy. And we're going to start the genealogy this session that's coming up in 2 weeks, and we will finish it in the next one. So we'll see what the genealogy is all about of these Israelites that Moses is talking to. But here's your reading practice for 2 weeks. Vaydaber Moshe Cain el bnei Yisrael v'lo sham'u et el Moshe mikotzer ruach me'avodah kasha. 10. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. 11. Bo daber el paro melech Mitzrayim v'yishalach et bnei Yisrael me'artzo. Verse 12. Vaydaber Moshe lifnei Adonai lemor. Hein bnei Yisrael lo shama'u elai ve'ech yishma'eni faro va'ani aral sfatayim. And then for the translation, you should go to 14, but the editor stuck in this completely separate little section. 13. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aharon ve'yitzavem el bnei Yisrael ve'el Paro melech Mitzrayim lahotzi et bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. And as you're reading and looking at translation and practicing, you'll notice who shows up that has not been here in this entire blue story. All of a sudden, Aharon is back. And another indicator that this is probably an insertion by the editor redactor. Verse 14, Ela Rashi Beit Avotam B'nei Reuven Bechor Yisrael Chanoch Ufalo Chetzron V'Charmi Ela Mishpachot Reuven Uvnei Shimon Yemuel V'Yamin V'Ohad V'Yachin V'Tzochar V'Shaul Ben Hakanaanit, Ela Mishpachot Shimon. So, by the way, if you're looking for children's names, you can just look at these children of Reuben and Shimon, and you can name the child some good name like Chanoch or Falu, Chetzron or Charmi, Yemuel, Yamin, Ohad, Yachin, Sochar, but whatever you do, don't name them Shaul, because Shaul was Ben Hakanaanit, the son of a Canaanite woman by way of Shimon. That should keep you busy for a couple of weeks, besides doing some things like Passover
And Easter.
And Easter, yes.
and Easter and whatever else.